one of the things that I tell my students in my class is I need you all to talk to each other as students, because I can say something 14 different ways, and you might need the 15th way that the person sitting next to you might be able to say. So that's the other branch of what I hope to do with this course, and then we've got some other ones on the way, is be able to also help the professionals in the field find out maybe not a better way, but a different way that their client may click a little bit better for their client.
You're listening to The Successful Bookkeeper with your host, Michael Palmer. Listen each week as inspiring guests share their secrets of success to help you increase your confidence, work smarter, and build a business you love. This episode of The Successful Bookkeeper is brought to you by PureBookkeeping.com, the proven system to grow your bookkeeping business.
Well, welcome back to the Successful Bookkeeper podcast. I am your host, Michael Palmer, and today's show is going to be a great one. Almost 25 years ago, after building his experience in the hospitality industry and working with many business startups, our guest, Ron Trucks, founded his privately owned firm, RJT Consulting, guiding and coaching small businesses and nonprofit organizations in a wide variety of fields and industries, both in his hometown of St. Louis, Missouri, and across the United States. I discovered Ron on our Successful Bookkeeper Facebook group, where he posted an offer regarding his Bookkeeper Basic Udemy course, which has had a fantastic response from our members. So I just had to have him on the show. Ron, welcome to the podcast.
Thank you, Michael. Happy to be here.
It's great to have you. And I remember seeing that post and wondering, okay, well, what's this all about? And it just had an incredible amount of engagement, and the response was really great.
It was fantastic. I was happy to see the feedback from everyone.
Yeah, which is why we wanted to have you on. And first off, let's have you share a bit more about your career background up to this point.
Good. As you mentioned, I actually started in the hospitality business, working for some large hotels around the St. Louis area, and then sort of stepped away from it for a little while, moved down to Florida and opened a bar down there. And in the process, I had friends back here in St. Louis who were either opening businesses or continuing to try to keep a company up and running. So I was sort of helping them long distance remote. Finally moved back to St. Louis and was just sort of helping out friends, and woke up one day and kind of realized that I had a consulting business if I just would have organized it. So that's how we started from there.
Wow.
And what my company does, the analogy that I use is that I help business owners who are really good at what they do, but perhaps need help with the business aspect. So, for example, I may work with chefs that are great in a kitchen, but don't quite understand how to process payroll, or bodybuilders who are great at personal training, but need help putting, let's say, an inventory system together.
That's very cool. And there's a lot of those people out there.
That's right. From that point in time, one of the things that I realized in working with my clients is I found myself many times sort of serving as a translator between the business owners who knew how to speak the language of their business and their accountants or their CPAs or their tax advisors. So I sort of was able to stand in the middle and listen to the business side, and then also listen to the questions coming from the accounting side and be able to translate back and forth. So while I was working through that process, it hit me that maybe some basic elementary lessons and learning on the basics of bookkeeping was going to help the business side, so I could help clarify that translation a lot easier.
Very cool. So how did it start out? You started putting together some content and helping your clients, and what was the outcome?
Well, and I also missed a little bit of a chapter here, so let me just tell that. Is about 12 years ago, I also decided that I also wanted to do teaching. So I reached out to my local community college here outside of St. Louis, Jefferson College, and just walked into the HR department one day and said, I'd love to teach, but I don't know how to get started. So they helped me first. I started teaching some continuing education courses on small business bookkeeping and some QuickBooks courses. And then from there, received an offer to start going on staff as an adjunct instructor. So that's sort of how I built my curriculum, knowing what I was teaching with the students, and then adapted it into the Udemy platform so that I could reach out to business owners and have a platform for them to be able to learn it also.
That's amazing. I just absolutely love that. Walked into the school and said, "Look, want to be a teacher," and away you go.
Yep, that was it. They sort of looked at me a little bit trying to figure out exactly what I was talking about. But then whenever I explained that I'd had a lot of business with training in the corporate world and working with small businesses on a personal level, we were able to find that right path and fill some needs for them, as long as helping to start building my career, my teaching portfolio.
I just love it because it says a lot about you, and I think there's a lot that can be taken away from that approach to anything, right? You wanted to do something instead of getting all caught up in the hows and the whys and whether or not this would or wouldn't work. You just went in and said what you wanted to do, and you had the patience to listen to them and make sure they were clear and kept moving the ball forward. I just love that story.
Thank you. That sums it up very well. And there were stumbles along the line, but that's how you also learn and grow from those experiences. So
absolutely, but it doesn't happen unless you take the actions, right?
That's correct.
So you came up with this course, and I love the multi kind of arms, I guess you would say, of different thinking, right? Small business, education, academic aspect, as well as real-time coaching experience, real-time business experience. It really puts you in a position of where you can help a business owner and bring a lot to them.
Well, exactly. And that was the nice part about where quite a few of the threads from my path all seemed to cross at one point in time, was as we were starting to design the first course, the Bookkeeping Basics course. The question was, part of that market analysis of who is it that we're putting this out there for? And there was a tendency to try to pigeonhole it a little bit tighter. And we said, no, let's keep it a little bit more general. And let's make sure that we're putting a product out, a course out, educational materials out that can, as you said, benefit small business owners especially. But also, as I said, I teach some bookkeeping courses, and students are always wanting to get a little bit tighter grasp. So let's make it available to them. Let's make it available to CPAs and other tax professionals to be able to recommend to their clients, et cetera. So we just sort of tried to keep it generic, but yet fill in enough gaps that everybody felt comfortable with.
Very cool. Now, tell me about Udemy, because while you and I are having a conversation about it, I kind of realize that many may have never heard what Udemy is all about.
It is. It's an amazing platform. They basically build themselves as a marketplace for anyone who wants to produce and develop a video educational, either just a single course or a series. So everyone's open to, or they're pretty much open to whatever topics you want to put up, whether it is business platform or whether it is recreational. There are cooking classes and there are yoga classes. There's also quite a bit in coding for computer coding, but we're building a stronger business support area in there also. So courses range, there's a wide range from completely free courses up to very in-depth long-term courses that can run into the hundreds of dollars. So we've positioned ourselves in a very economical range of that market, and gives everyone who is interested, as they're breezing through trying to figure out exactly what will help them learn the best way. So one of the things that I love about Udemy is that it's required that there must be a visual video component of it. So it isn't just an online where you're looking at a QuickBooks screen, let's say. You're actually having interactions with students. And what a lot of us do in the courses, we then supplement that not only with handouts and other materials, but also, for example, as you mentioned, we have a Facebook group specifically for this class. So we've got a couple hundred people right now who have enrolled in the course at Udemy, but also have joined our private Facebook group. So as those students come up with questions, they put them up, we can answer them, or other students who have experience can also respond. So it's basically an ongoing educational classroom.
Very cool. Now, when you first started getting this course created, you were essentially helping small business owners. Mm-hmm. And what have you found along the way? Who have stepped up and sort of been the clients of this course?
Well, and we range from quite a few different directions there. What I do personally is anytime that I'm working with a new client of mine, I offer it as a free expense that I cover, just so they can, well, let me take just a step back. One of the things about the course is it actually can flow in two different directions. You can proceed through this course in sequential order, or it can also be used as a reference. So we have a section on income. We have a section on expenses. We have a section on accounts receivable. So if the students want to just target a particular area that they're not comfortable with, they can pick those out. And that's what I found more with my clients is the course is probably about 3.5 hours long, but it's broken down into about 55 different lessons. Most of my clients won't sit down and go through the whole thing, but I can follow their progress, and they will go through, and whenever we start talking about the fact that they're having some troubles, let's say with their receivables, I watch them, they'll go pull out the receivable section of the course and work through that so that whenever we sit down and talk about it the next time, we are all sort of speaking the same language and we understand what each other are talking about.
Isn't that beautiful? What a fantastic way to support your clients from that perspective, right? It's here's a challenge you're having, here's some education that will help you overcome that hurdle, and whilst, it really is designed for the new way people learn.
Exactly. And two things that I think I'll throw in there is, number one, I try very, very hard with the course. I'm one of those instructors. One of the things that I tell my students in class is I don't like textbook answers. Please don't read me a quote out of the textbook. Let's just talk about it person to person so I can make sure that you understand it. And that's the way we've developed the course. I don't use a lot of terminology. In fact, one of the phrases that I use in the course is, if you try to use this exact words with a CPA, the response you're probably going to get is, well, yeah, that's basically right, but I understand how you're saying it that way so you can understand it. And that's the way we approach it on the course. The other thing that I think that I've always felt comfortable or felt happy about once we developed this course is it's just more value added for my clients. It's something that I'm able to give them as a resource along with my consulting services or my bookkeeping services that can sit on the shelf. And whenever it's there for them. So it's sort of included in all of my package with clients.
That's what I love. I love most about this whole problem. There's a lot I love about it, but this is really cool, is that you're differentiating yourself by being valuable. And, there's all this knowledge, and every single listener listening right now has life experience and knowledge from multiple areas, seen different things happen. And we're all constantly teaching, aren't we? Every single day we're teaching something to our clients, to the people in our lives. What you've done is you've actually documented that so you don't have to do it every single time, which is brilliant.
That is exactly the case. In fact, it's a little funny because occasionally I'll get a client who will call me and say, I know that you gave me this course for my resource, but my freshman and high school daughter is taking bookkeeping. Do you mind if I let her go through the course? Yeah, I mean, that's exactly what it's out there for, is to be that resource. Use it for business, but it's also there for other reasons.
Absolutely. And so, it was a big hit in the Successful Bookkeeper community. Why do you think that was? Who was stepping up and actually consuming this? Did they want this for their clients, or did they want this for themselves?
Well, and I think the best answer to that probably is for their clients. Like I said, we approached the course from the pure basics. I would say probably 85% of it's for clients. I get some feedback on the other 15% of thank you because you helped me figure out how to express what I was trying to say to my clients in a way that they understood it. One of the things that I tell my students in my class is, I need you all to talk to each other as students, because I can say something 14 different ways, and you might need the 15th way that the person sitting next to you might be able to say. So that's the other branch of what I hope to do with this course, and we've got some other ones on the way, is be able to also help the professionals in the field find out maybe not a better way, but a different way that their client may click a little bit better for their client. Let's put it that way.
I love it. And that's such a cool,
thank you.
Yeah, it's such a cool concept, right? Is that people who are really bright, know what they're talking about, advanced level of bookkeeping, watching the course to essentially understand how to put it in such simple terms that it can help their clients, because it's the curse of knowledge, right? When you know things, you believe that other people have the same level of knowledge. It's hard to see where the gaps are.
Well, that's exactly right. And that's one of the things that I learned because, as I said, I graduated college with a hospitality degree. That's where I started. And in the very beginning of my career working with financials and everything else, I would have CPAs look at me when I'm trying to get them to make an adjustment, and they would say, are you debiting that or are you crediting that? And my response was, I don't have any idea. I need this one to go higher and I need this one to go lower. So I was fortunate working with the professionals that I was working with for them to be able to say, okay, let me explain to you how this works. But even at that, there were some of those professionals that I was working with that I think you sort of referenced. They know their material and their knowledge so well that they struggle to realize that others don't know it as well as they do. So that isn't a knowledge problem. It's actually just a communication problem.
You're absolutely right. Now, you mentioned you are going to create some new courses. Tell us about those.
Mm-hmm. We have, basically, the plan was that we wanted to roll out the Bookkeeping Basics course because it's our very first course on Udemy, and I wanted to spend 6 to 9 months getting a feel for how the platform worked, getting an idea on how well it was going to be received. I had been using a lot of this, like I said, with my clients previously, but packaging it and putting it out for public consumption is obviously a different approach. So now that we've done that and the response has been amazing, we've got quite a few different courses that we're in different stages of development with, and we basically break them down into what we call a focus course or a master class. Bookkeeping Basics was a master's class, probably, like I said, probably about 3.5 hours, 55 individual different video lessons. Some of them we're going to do a little bit more short, focused 30-minute lessons. So, for example, we've got one that we're in the process of writing the script for right now of what does debit and credit mean, and to be able to explain the concept of T accounts and how the relationships work. That's just going to be a short 30-minute focus one. Another one that we're working on, and I'm honestly having trouble figuring out how to get it just into one course, is the basics of QuickBooks. Because for those of us who use QuickBooks or even any of the software programs, those could turn into a semester-long full college credit course if you do it right. So the point there is trying to keep that basic level, the open communication without getting too intense on the subject, but still fill it out so that we're covering enough of the bases. So we've got both of those. We've got a payroll taxes system coming up. We've also got one that deals with the basics of how sales tax and personal property tax work. And then we're also moving into some other areas. One of the things that I had a request from quite a few clients on was the Bookkeeping Basics course is good, but could you do just a little bit more of a personal finance course that could actually be a good bridge between how people understand their personal finances and how that translates into business finances? So that's actually the next one we've got coming out, probably within the next month or so that'll be rolled out.
That's very cool. So I really see that it's a fine balance between taking it too far and becoming a college course or something like that, and keeping it to your core, which is helping people get the fine fundamentals right.
Exactly.
Yeah.
Exactly. Because, and that's one of the things I love working with small businesses and small business owners. I get a little challenged nowadays because I deal with some people who think that a small business is a $50, $60, $70 million business. And the restaurant that I'm working with down the street needs a different level of service than what typically sometimes will fall into the definition of a small business. So that's where we're sort of targeting these courses is for, if we want to use the phrase a mom and pop business, I'm not always crazy about that, but sort of that micro business level for people who are juggling an awful lot of balls and need to have just a general knowledge so that they can feel comfortable. And that's one of the things that I encourage them to do is these courses allow you to be able to sit in a tax advisor's office or CPA's office and do two things. One, have a general understanding of what they're talking about and allow you to feel comfortable asking questions. Being able to say, okay, I understand what you were saying on that, but here's what I understand. Help me bridge that difference.
Yeah, you're absolutely right. It is, and I think it's interesting what you're saying about small business, like the definition of it as well. And I would say most listeners are not bookkeeping for $50 to $75 million companies.
Right.
It's more like the 100,000 to 2 million, 1 million, 2 million,
exactly.
Somewhere in there, right? That's the real, we look at a community and anywhere in North America, those are what most people say, oh yeah, that's a small business.
That's right. That's exactly right. I'm fortunate. I've got a range of clients. I vary from those $100,000 a year, maybe a restaurant, up to, we also handle a pretty good sized private equity firm that's dealing with, $250, $300 million worth of assets. That's rare for me because I do try to focus more on the smaller end, but there's a wide range in there, but it's still amazing how much the communication questions and the learning questions are consistent all the way across the board.
Absolutely. I'm never surprised to hear people be how surprised they are about the little that people know about fundamentals of accounting, and it really is where a lot of our clients will say, yeah, I had no idea. Like even an accountant or a person that's doing, a CA, like people expect that because they're at that level, they know everything about anything to do with accounting, and it's not the case. It's like that in any profession, any industry, medical profession, engineering. You think someone has an engineering title, well, they know everything about bridges, they know everything about foundations, right? And they don't.
Exactly. I mean, that's almost, and tying it back to even food and beverage. They think because you own a restaurant, you should be able to cook everything from biscuits and gravy to an amazing French dinner. And the world tends to focus on the areas that it wants to focus on. And that's just the exact same thing in our industry.
Wow. So how has all of this helped your consulting and coaching business?
My business is doing well. The reason why I hesitate on that just a little bit is because for pretty much the entire 25 years, I focused on a very small list of clients. I usually have not more than 6 or maybe 7 clients at a time. I don't do any marketing because all of my clients come to me from word of mouth and referrals. One of the things that I have, as far as the bookkeeping side of my business, what I typically do is I work with clients that I get referred to from CPA firms that I've worked with in the past. So they have a client that's coming in, we all know those stories. It's tax time and the client walks in the door with a great big cardboard box and says, here's everything for my taxes. They will recommend touching base with me. So what we do on my end is we'll establish the relationship. We will come in and start with the books first to just get a good general idea on how the operation works. And especially if it's a field that we haven't necessarily consulted in before, that's where we learn the basics. From there, we will help them get organized from there and branch out, be able to make recommendations on, perhaps we need to be looking at putting an inventory system in, or let's get the HR aspect a little bit more organized and help you build an employee handbook. Once they feel comfortable, we sort of meld back into handling their daily, weekly, monthly bookkeeping with the expectation that they will have a CPA on staff at the end of the year because we don't do taxes. But then we're also there just to assist when a need comes up. I had a client probably about 3 weeks ago. She was a private chiropractor. She was in the process of needing to terminate her first employee. She'd never terminated an employee before. So she reached out to us, and we sort of stepped up into that role and started talking about all the things we needed to help with, all the things she needed to be thinking about. Once that was done, we just slid back into just handling the bookkeeping work.
I love it. It's on many levels very innovative what you're doing with education to educate your clients, and as well it'll may even take over what you're doing with your current business or split into two different businesses, but as well just the way that you're growing your business and how you're treating it, very consultative, and that's beautiful.
Well, and they do sort of feed back and forth between each other. I was just contacted within the last week or so of someone who became aware of us through the course on Udemy that is wanting to talk about the possibility of us starting to assist with their books. And it's a remote client, so we're still working out how comfortable they're going to feel with that system, with that process. One of the things that I've always kind of found is whenever we pick up a new client somewhere along the line, there is a natural instinct that we need to have either a part-time or full-time bookkeeper on premises 5 days a week, 8 hours a day. And one of the things that we try to get them to understand is we can do that, but in reality, you're probably paying for more than what you need, because at some point in time, there's going to be dead time. So instead of that, let's scale that back and let me and my team work out of our remote offices, and we will meet with you 1 or 2 or even 3 times a week in the beginning until you feel more comfortable with this.
It's the way. It's the way to
It help. Is the way.
Yeah, yeah.
Exactly. And that's following a lot of the models that you deal with on a regular basis.
Yeah. It's what's needed in order to maximize the efficiency of what you're doing. And that's part of being valuable is giving them what they need, and they don't know what they need. And
That's
so
right.
It's through education, through conversations, and what you're doing with this. Look, we're going to hold your hand, if you will. I mean, we're not going to say that to a client, but we're going to, we're going to take care of this. In the beginning, you'll hear from us more to help them feel comfortable and to get them feeling that this is the right way to go. But I think that's what Michael Gerber would call leadership, right? You're showing leadership.
That's exactly right.
As to how this is going to go. It's not like they're telling you how it's going to go. You're like, I get how you want to get it to go, but would you be open to a way that might be better for you, that you're going to absolutely love and get more value from, right? So I love that. It's fantastic.
That's exactly right. And I think the other thing that I sort of try to incorporate in with the education is empowering them to be able to say the words, I don't know about this. Because all of us as small business owners, there is that self-conscious level of, I should be the one that's able to keep all of the balls in the air. And sometimes admitting that I don't know something is going to make me look weak. No, it's, as we discussed earlier and as we're discussing now, it's important to be able to say, this isn't my strong area. Can you help me figure this out? Or I thought, because I've been told for 20 years that I'm supposed to have a bookkeeper on premise 5 days a week, 8 hours a day. That's what I thought. Are you telling me that there's another way to do this? And you're right, leading them and helping them understand.
Yeah, it's great. Now, how do the listeners take advantage of what you've built for your process? How can they use what you've built to educate their clients and in a way that's going to support them? Is there a way to do that?
There is. And that's actually kind of how our paths crossed in the first place, because I had been following your Facebook group, and there were some questions that came up about helping clients understand. And I threw an offer out to them at that point in time, which I'll be happy to do now, which is I would be happy to offer one copy of the course for free for anyone who is interested in it, for them to be able to see what's going on. And then from there, anybody who would be interested in making this available for their clients will run a really, really low discounted rate on it that they can do one of 3 things. I've had other CPAs and bookkeepers purchase a block of the courses and then just be able to give out the coupon codes for a free course to their client. I've also had them reach out to their clients and say, here's the course that we're recommending, and here is a discount code that you can get it at a cheaper rate. Or they've also just said, can you go ahead and if you decide to enroll in this course, then let me know and I'll credit your account back for what you spend on the course. So, and I know that sounds a little bit like I'm rolling my own log there, that I'm promoting the product, and I guess I am in some ways.
Oh, goodness gracious me! Don't promote your own products.
Exactly. But I guess my point on that is I have no problems with the professionals and your listeners receiving a copy of the course, because I want them to feel comfortable on, is it something that will work for them or not? And then from there, if they're willing or if they're interested, making it available, whether they pay for it themselves and give it as a gift to the client, which I will say probably I've heard is a little bit better feedback, because your clients are always going to be a little bit more interested in taking advantage of something that they think is being given to them free versus them having to pay for it and get credit back on it later.
I agree. And it sounds like there's multiple ways to do it, but if what I would be looking at is, for the listener, is how do you use this as a way to be different, differentiate yourself, help your clients. And not all of your clients are going to need something like this, but having it as one of those tools in your tool belt, exactly. I think it's really important, and it could really help your client. I mean, having some fundamentals, basic ideas and understanding will help your client, but it'll also help you in getting your job done. So something to keep an eye on. And I'm sure, Ron, you're going to be probably modifying it and tweaking it as you go, as you learn what the bookkeeping community needs for their clients. Maybe there'll be iterations and changes, but I think it's a good idea to get in there, check it out, and see how it can help all of you in your businesses.
Well, and Michael, I'm glad that you mentioned that, because that's one of the expectations that Udemy has for any courses that are on its marketplace, but it's also an expectation that we built in for this course and all the ones going forward is we will be continuing to add material. The entire last section of each of our courses are basically just, and also don't forget about this stuff type of a section. So as we get feedback from courses through our Facebook page, through emails, all those kind of things, we're constantly adding not only topics for new courses, but additional material that we want to add for the courses that we've already either have up there or have in development. So we'd love to hear that kind of feedback.
It's great. It's great. Now, Ron, what's the best way? I mean, we'll put links in the show notes, but is there a quick way for our listener to just jump on and find out more?
There is. And actually, probably in selling myself, the one thing I forgot to do more than anything else is mention the name of the company that we're operating all this under. And that is Business Atlas, but it's spelled a little bit different. It's BSNS Atlas, ATLAS.com. And that's the website that shows everything on the courses, where we're at, what we've got scheduled coming up. Plus, also, that's the way that we can reach out. I'll be making sure to get a splash page out there for you so that all of your listeners can find this offer right away whenever they visit the website.
That's great. Well, we'll have that link in the show notes. So if you're listening right now and you want to find out about it, just scroll down, tap wherever you need to tap on your phone and get that link and go find out more. Ron, this has been great. Thank you so much. It's been you have such an interesting story, and you're doing great work to help the community as well as help the small business community.
Well, I really appreciate the time, and I also appreciate what you're doing, helping everyone understand and fill in a lot of these areas. In some ways, we're kind of following some similar paths here too. So
yeah, absolutely, I think so. It's and it's great to have someone that's in the community that's helping. So that's what makes a good community, a strong community.
Great. If there's anything I can do for either you or any of your listeners, always feel free to reach out.
I encourage everyone to do that. It's great. And thank you, Ron.
Thank you.
That wraps another episode of the Successful Bookkeeper podcast. To learn more about today's fabulous guest and to get access to all sorts of valuable free business building resources, you can go to thesuccessfulbookkeeper.com. Until next time, goodbye.
You've been listening to The Successful Bookkeeper with Michael Palmer. For more information and to download the resources mentioned in this episode, please visit us at thesuccessfulbookkeeper.com. Thank you for listening.